So let's see. There we go. Now we are being recorded. So again, I want to thank all of you for joining us on the session here. I know a lot of you, got quite a few of you are in my class, which is great. This is I like to do these things towards the end of the session. That way it kind of brings everything together, gives you an understanding what urban planning is, and hopefully if I haven't spawned your interest, that you kind of can build that either through this session or through just listening to the other folks I have on here on the chat. So I'll start with myself. I'll give you my intro. Most of you know me, but I'm Troy Salisbury, and I'm one of the adjunct professors at USF, the undergrad planning classes. And also I work for Hillsborough County as the hazard mitigation manager for the county. So, but my past background includes public and private sector planning work. I've been a project manager and worked on projects such as Walmart supercenters to CVS's to residential developments. So I've been on that side of the coin. I've also worked for city governments and county governments, working in areas of comprehensive planning, zoning, historic preservation, greenways and trails, economic development, environmental, and now hazard mitigation. So I'm pretty much jack of all trades, master of none. So I will pass it on to let's go with Katrina. Katrina.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Katrina Corcoran. I'm a senior planner with Plan Hillsborough. If you're not familiar with our agency, we have the TPO, the Transportation Planning Organization, and the Planning Commission, and we're housed under the Plan Hillsborough umbrella. And I work for the Planning Commission side, but I also liaise with the TPO side. I primarily work on transportation-related policy, special area studies, and our strategic planning initiatives with the agency. Previously, I did have a job at Renaissance Planning, which is a small consulting firm. So I have both public and private experience. And I graduated from the USF MURP program now in August 2017. So starting to feel a little bit old, I guess, there. I'm also heavily involved with the local American Planning Association Suncoast section. If you're not already, the membership for that is free for students, and it's an awesome organization. There's a national organization, state level organizations, and then of course our local sections. And our sections are great, and I'm the incoming chair for the board starting in January. So we host planning events, happy hours, continuing education events, all those sorts of things. But very happy to be here and happy to answer any questions you have for me. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Katrina. Let's go to Dr. Van Linkus.
Hi, all. I go by Van. I'm the program director as of this August for the Masters of Urban and Regional Planning program at USF. I've been with the program since I came to USF in 2013, and I'm an associate professor in the program as well. So it's a really exciting time for us. Troy was just mentioning that. So the program earned accreditation in 2020. Which is the accreditation is by the Planning Accreditation Board, and they're kind of affiliated with the American Planning Association, the Association of Collegiate Schools of Planning, and then the Planning Accreditation Board. They're all kind of one joint entity, and it's just it's something that kind of signals that the program meets curriculum standards, quality standards, and has oversight by those united professional organizations interested in planning. So it's really been a big moment for us. Just to kind of illustrate, we've always known that our alumni are valued by the local planning professionals who've been employing superstars like Katrina, and everyone knows that we graduate high quality students, but really for prospective students, the accreditation is a big signal. So normally we have about 5 folks applying in the spring semester, which is kind of the off semester, and we've got 15 already, and we just keep getting more every day. So we're really on a growth trajectory, which is exciting. Yeah, so I, besides talking about the program and the exciting times that we have going on here, my career path was kind of wandering. I actually wanted to work more in advertising and fashion when I was young, moved to New York City as soon as I graduated from undergrad. But the job I could get in writing was actually writing proposals for planning firms. So the work I'd wanted to do in writing kind of meandered. I did do work in advertising and copywriting, but spent a lot of time writing proposals, and did decide after a while, kind of having my foot on both sides, I really wanted to do more a career where I was more involved in the community, and something that kind of had a more, that I could really contribute and make a difference. So I ended up going to planning school in Philadelphia, worked there as a planner doing farmland preservation, smart growth planning, and transit-oriented development for a few years. Made my way back to Florida, where I grew up, and worked for the University of Florida Extension Program in Sarasota, running a lot of community development, community education around sustainability kinds of programs down there. And I came here in 2013 to USF. So my research is around land use planning, comprehensive planning, rural space planning, and increasingly I'm also looking into more the climate and coastal resiliency side as well. So nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for being part of this. And we know you all, those of you who are working with Troy in his class right now, we know you're getting wonderful exposure to what this field is all about. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And then I leave Fatima to be last because, as you will find out, it's hard to follow Fatima. So we're gonna start. We're gonna end with Fatima. Does you tell us about yourself? And she's a current student. So and you can kind of go into a little bit about your background, and we'll start there.
Awesome. Well, you're really setting the bar high for me, so now I have to kind of bring the pizzazz. So my name is Fatima or Fatima, whatever rolls off your tongue, both are fine by me. I recently joined the MURP program in 2020, so just in time for us to be accredited. I came from an environmental biology and anthropology background in my undergrad. I was going to go pre-med, but didn't work out. Med school did not sound like my little cup of tea, so I ended up going into biology, but after graduating, I kind of was stuck in figuring out where I wanted to go with that, but I knew I wanted to be involved with the community. I wanted to make a difference, like many of us in our undergrad careers. I met my now mentor on LinkedIn and asked him what he was doing, what his job was, and he told me about the MURP program and how great it was. So I kind of signed up for it blind, not knowing what planning was, but I learned through the program and through the awesome fellowships that they give us what planning is. And honestly, I cannot gas up this program enough. It really is amazing. They provide you so many opportunities. It goes beyond academics. They teach us the basics of academic. They teach us about history, about theory, about how planning works in the bigger sphere, but they also give us real world experience. Every single class that I've had has had a professional come in and talk to us, has taught us skills that we're like able to apply to real jobs, or even gives us real jobs that we can actually do in class. So it's honestly, I feel like I could talk for hours about how great the program is. They just give us a lot of opportunities to kind of hone ourselves as professionals, and get us ready to go into the world and actually make a difference and kind of reroute where planning has been and where it's going to be. So honestly, I feel like that kind of wraps it up.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll go around. I'll go down the list here and just ask you guys what got you interested in urban planning. If you're not in urban planning, let us know what your current path is, and just a little bit about your background. So again, it's a small group, so we'll just kind of go through. Let's start. I'm going down, starting with the A's, and you'll have to forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Is it Aditi?
Yeah, hi, I'm Aditi from India. I can't, come on video because I'm in the university in the library. So it's a lot of crowd here. I don't want to switch on. So I have joined the MURP program in USF this fall. So I was excited to hear all of you talk about what's happening here in America. Really excited to know those things. So yeah, excited. I'm actually an architect. I've been working and practicing as an architect back in India, and now as like everybody else, I'm interested in community. So I just wanted to do this. Thank you. Hi all.
Yes. Thank you very much. And you know what you'll find is there's a quite the connection between both of those professions. So I think it's a good connection over to planning. So let's
Yeah,
go to yeah, go ahead.
no, yeah, that's it.
So we'll go to Amber.
Hi, everybody. I'm an environmental science and policy undergrad student minoring in GIS and urban studies. And the reason why I want to plan, or I'm applying for the urban planning degree program here at USF is actually because of Salisbury's class. I took it last spring and I was so interested in it, and I was like, this is what I want to do. So yeah, hopefully I get into the program for this fall.
Right. Well, thank you, Amber. I'm glad I was able to kind of bring you over to our side. That's fantastic. I always like, you know, we still a lot of people from the environmental policy group, so I'm happy about that. Let's go with Angelica.
Hi, my name is Angelica. I'm also an undergraduate environmental science student. I'm still in my junior year, but I'm looking at options for graduate programs. I'm currently in Mr. Salisbury class, and I'm very interested in the topic and just wanted to learn more about it.
Right. Fantastic. Austin.
Hi, I'm Austin Trotwood. I'm also an environmental science major undergraduate, and I also have I'm getting my minor in GIS, and yeah, I just probably have like the same interests as everyone else of like, I knew the lab setting of like environmental work was like not for me, and I just been like continuing taking courses and seeing where like my track leads, and it's kind of like pushing me towards like urban planning, and I'm kind of enjoying it.
Fantastic. We like hearing that for sure. Caleb.
Hey, my name's Caleb White. I am a political science major, and I am looking to actually get my master's in public administration. What kind of brought me into this class is just kind of learning more about planning, and I actually interned at the Board of County Commissioners, and so interacting with the planning department, they had the best people. Like, they had the best people to interact with. So I just want to learn more about it.
It's fantastic. Yeah, they do have a very good group of people there, and planning commission folks are not too bad either. Catherine.
Hi, sorry, I'm at the library too. So, I'm mental science and policy, but I want to go to grad school. I just have no idea what. But as of like the last year, I've been really into like sustainability. But I know sustainability encompasses a lot of different things. So I'm kind of trying to find what niche I want to. I'm really into food insecurity at the moment and like that aspect of sustainability. But I really did love this course. So I know that urban planning can be something that I potentially explore when I do decide to apply for grad schools.
Fantastic, fantastic. And let's go to Leticia.
Good evening. My name is Letitia Smith. I used to work for Hillsborough County in the wastewater department. I've been a public servant for about 13 years. I took this course as a part of my environmental science and policy degree. I left Hillsborough County wastewater department under London Womack, George Cassidy, and I can't think of that's terrible. But anyway, I left Hillsborough County to come over to the Cayman Islands and get some experience overseas in the Cayman Islands. I'm really big into the environment and what I can do globally, because I am a water, I'm a water fanatic, and I love wastewater. I love treating wastewater, and I have enjoyed what I've learned in this class, and I wanted to kind of understand how I can fit what I learn in urban planning in with what I do planning, expansion of wastewater facilities, minimizing the impact of septic tanks and all of that, or how all of that ties into the planning of a of a city or a state or whatever. That's all.
That's fantastic, Letitia. As a matter of fact, yeah, George Cassidy is my administrator over in Water Resources now. So, and they changed their name from Public Utilities now to Water Resources. So, so yes, I work with him under Bart Weiss, who you might be familiar with.
He is one of my favorite people in the whole world. He's been my mentor, and I came in as I was in pavement division, working on the pavement crew. I came into Water Resources, and he just motivated me to be so much. I'm a senior operator in the Cayman Islands. I was a plant supervisor before I left Hillsborough County, and I love Hillsborough County. I just wanted to get some, experience elsewhere, and people don't realize how fluid water is and how it affects every what we're doing here in the Cayman Islands. Even though the Cayman Islands is so small, it really affects globally, and people have to understand how our resources that we utilize in our current situation, how it just permeates through our entire ecosystem.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, and you'll be happy to know that we have a grant that we received money for to do a septic to sewer conversion. So yeah, so it's all connected.
I'm trying to get buy-in here. It's much harder because it's an island and they don't have the the money to redo their infrastructure and construct all these pipelines and everything, but I liken it to Moana, when Moana's island starts to turn black and die. And I tell them, there's so much carrying capacity on this island. There's going to be a point where all these people moving here and this island is not going to be able to sustain all the waste. And we're going to have to do better. So hopefully what I've learned in this course and what I, learn in the future, hopefully I can take another one of your classes, because I've enjoyed it. I don't get to come into class all the time, but I do watch the classes afterwards and things like that. So I've enjoyed myself. Thank you so much. It's been tremendous. But I am not really sure about going into urban planning, but I do think urban planning is a key part of what I do and my role in the community.
Indeed. Well, fantastic. Let's go on to Lindsay.
Sorry about that. Hey, I'm Lindsay. I'm a junior, a geography major. I live in Michigan as of like a few months ago, so unfortunately I have to transfer next semester to Arizona State University, where I can finish my degree entirely online, which I have to do now, which makes me kind of sad. But I'm going to be doing a focus on urban planning in this program. Mainly because of this class. It kind of always had been on my radar, like interesting. I've always been interested in like how cities function and like who makes those decisions and all that stuff. So yeah, and I just think that I've been meandering myself for quite a while now. So and I've been always looking for something that involves community and making some sort of an impact that you can maybe like a tangible impact you might actually be able to see the product of. So I feel like urban planning might be a cool way to feel like I'm actually making a difference and maybe see a difference, So yeah, thanks.
Fantastic. And let's go to Marcus.
Hello. So like I said, I wasn't expecting this, so apologize if it's loud. But I graduated from Minnesota State in 2018 with a degree in geology. roundabout way. Now I'm full-time working in the financial sector. Live in St. Pete, work remote. It's kind of not for me long term, so I just wanted to find something similar to geology but more practical, to be employed. The strictly kind of science profession is kind of cutthroat and really hard to get into, and this is not as many jobs for people. And then so I just kind of started branching out, and this was one of the programs that piqued my interest. I met Van, I think last week before the Thanksgiving break, and then now I'm here. So, nice to meet you all.
All right, fantastic, great. And then last but not least, Mingjung. Did I say that right? Hopefully.
Yeah, hi. Hello. Can you
Yeah,
can you hear me? Yes,
we
hi,
can.
nice to
Yes.
meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm a student. I'm studying at USF. This is my first semester, and I'm from South Korea. My interest is international land policy. So because before I came here, I work at Korea Public Company. So running a in Tampa policy and share the many interest technology is very, very interesting to me. So nice to meet you guys.
Yes. All right. Great. It's nice meeting you as well. And I think it's really fantastic, especially looking at planning and the way land use works in different parts of the world. Especially when you get into kind of that comparative policy analysis type of stuff. I mean, it really is fascinating. I love when I have students that are from different parts of the globe, because they really add a lot to the class, especially when they're able to get online and we can chat about some of those things. So thank you very much. I appreciate all of you kind of giving a little bit of your background, and so we'll start, and I'll go around. We'll start. I've got a few questions that were really popular on some of the other sessions similar to this. So we'll start with the common question is how you got into planning. And so I'm going to start this question with Katrina. How did you, when you were in an, undergrad, or you were finishing your undergrad, and how did you find yourself in the planning field?
Well, actually, I was 5 years old and decided I wanted to be a planner. No, most people don't actually. I feel like people fall into planning. That's the case that I've heard. You find out about it and you're like, wow, that's really cool. Why didn't I know about that? But for me, I actually went to USF for my undergrad degree. I got a degree in economics and public administration. And as I was finishing up my degree, I knew I'd probably, was thinking about a master's maybe. But I took an economics class with a professor that I really liked, a couple of classes with her. And she actually offered me a job working at the Center for Urban Transportation Research, or Cutter, which is on the USF campus. So I ended up working there, got really interested in the transportation research side of things, and I decided to go ahead and stay on working at Cutter as a graduate research assistant. And I found out about urban planning through that interest in transportation, and decided to go ahead and apply to the USF urban planning program, and was accepted. And then I was able to go ahead and join the planning field that way. But it really is just such a interesting field. Like for me, I'm more of a transportation and land use planner, but there's so many different parts of planning that are really interesting. So it's fun for me knowing that like a lot of my colleagues have gone to the Great American Teach-In and taught younger kids about planning, because I hope that there are more people that become interested in it, before you're a little further on in life. But yeah, that's my stumbling into planning story.
Yeah. And Dr. Van, we'll go with you next.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, I didn't necessarily want to start off in this career. I actually started off as an environmental science major, and after like biology and horticulture, it was like, oh, not for me, because I'm much more of a social sciences kind of person. So And then kind of meandered around, worked in advertising and copywriting for quite some time, which is actually great preparation for planning, because planning is so much about communication and writing. Then found my way into wanting to do something a little bit more meaningful. I did grow up in proximity to planning. My dad kind of worked in the financial side of state government for the Florida Department of Transportation. So I knew a little bit about that world and kind of gradually made my way there. But it's one of the things that kind of jumps out to me about the field is that people do come from really different backgrounds. It's definitely a point of anxiety for people when they're applying to the program. Do I have the right background? And I think that planning is such a generalist career with so many different ways that it can be applied. Some people come at it much more from the technical side. Some people come at it much more from the community engagement, or just being a liaison and going to different meetings and kind of building those institutional alliances is a big part of planning. So, or you can be much more technical, or you can do the transportation, you can do the environmental. And a lot of us, I think you'll hear throughout this, do it all. And we've done it, the different parts of it in our career. Planning really requires that orientation to kind of thinking about the big picture of the way communities work. So, my career meandered, but I think it's really all been part of a typical planning story. So when I started off, I was in transit-oriented development, farmland preservation. Then I kind of came into community education around planning issues. And, now I'm on the academic side. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of approach it. And I think it really is an interesting career where people find their niche. And every day can be different. You can really change your career. You can spend a few years doing this and move into that. And those different backgrounds, I think, work in your favor when you're a planner. It's not like you need to pick one and get really good at it. I think that knowing all those different sides of the planning arena can actually help you be a much more successful planner, since it is about the systems and how they work together. So so I meandered to find my way here. Love it because the people are lovely and it's interesting and there's different stuff to do all the time.
All right, and so what I'll do is I'll answer the question myself, and then I'm gonna shift it up a little bit and ask Fatima a question related to the same type of topic. But I think Katrina is correct. I think you kind of fall into urban planning. My undergrad was in geography. And so we looked into, I took classes in urban studies and in cartography and environmental and, whole bit, broad realm of things, including GIS, by the way, where at the time you had a 3 1/4 inch disc, which some of you probably don't even know what that is. And they said, bring one in, and we're going to put this mapping program on it, on a small little 3. So we had to do that. We brought in the thing, and they put it on there, and you brought it home, and you used it to create these maps. That was way before, if you guys know what ArcGIS is. It was way before ArcView, ArcInfo, and that kind of thing. My last semester as an undergrad, I took an Esri, an ArcView, ArcInfo class, which was just very, very, very challenging. But anyway, so I think you do fall into it. I wanted to be a person who was out in the wilderness, looking at bugs and bunnies and trees and everything else. And so I worked for a transportation engineering firm where I was an environmental planner. And I did some mapping for them. I did some GIS work for them, and that was a lot of fun. But then I got into county government work, and there was a position, an urban planning planner position. I had absolutely no idea what that was. I had no idea. The description sounded interesting. They said, well, you're going to do long-range planning and do comprehensive planning. And I said, okay, I think I can do that. I don't know. And so I applied, and that was part of my job. The other part was bicycle pedestrian work. And so that's the part that interested me, right? So that's really the reason I applied for the job. Well, I got the job, and so I was in that position. I wound up doing future land use planning, dealing with the comprehensive plan and learning what that was, and learning what a land development code was, and doing bicycle pedestrian planning, greenways planning, even did blueways planning. Me and a colleague mapped out 100 miles of blueway trails. That's getting in a kayak and kayaking around 100 miles, not in one day, 100 miles around Manatee County, right? So I'd get home, be very, very sore, get no sympathy for my wife, who, by the way, is also a planner. And she'd say, "Oh, that's nice. Where's dinner? Did you make dinner? Make dinner." So that's, and that happened a lot. So we did that. And so we had the longest trail, Blue Waste Trail. I'm digressing a little bit because it's an interesting part of the story. For a long period of time until down in the swamps of the South, where they had a kayak trail that went 120 miles. And so I thought we should go back out on the water and go in circles a few times and just like make up that time and become, like a trail of 121. But Everglades won out and they have a bigger trail, and so what? So anyway, I found that very interesting, and I found that working for county government really it really made the connection of planning in a community. And so I now knew what urban planning was. No one who I told that I was an urban planner understood what urban planning was, but at least I did. And so one of the reasons I like teaching is because then I can enlighten students on what urban planning is, so that maybe there are less people in the world who I tell them what my occupation is. They go, "What?" So I'll leave it there. And then so Fatima, because you have come from different educational experiences, right? You've wanted to be in the medical field, you went into biology and that type of thing, and you found your way to urban planning. So from where you are right now, as a student that you are now, what has been, I mean, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but is urban planning so far, and what you've been studying, is it all that you've wanted to be? Is it more? Is it less? Is it, kind of, what is your overall feeling here? This is going to help spawn the fire a little bit more for hopefully other people on this. So
I know you already know the answer, and everybody already knows the answer, that I could not even fathom what urban planning was. I'm so glad that everybody was kind of in the same boat, that everybody was like, I don't really know what urban planning is. And I say this all the time, it literally is everything. Like, name it, urban planning's involved in it in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know, like, I'm constantly getting my mind blown and being like, that's connected to that, and you guys work here, and you guys know this person. Like, literally everything is connected. So I think it's super cool that everybody in this group is coming from all these different backgrounds, because as you guys were talking, I was like, oh, sustainability, easy. We got LEED certification, we got green infrastructure. Oh, public administration, easy. I know a bunch of public administration students that are taking our classes, and we're taking theirs. Like, they definitely work hand in hand. Environmental science, that's my background as well. I was definitely like Troy, I wanted to be out with the bees and the birds and the trees. I love the botany aspect of it. I'm like Dr. Van. I was like, yes, I love natural sciences. I could do this my whole life, but doesn't really, it's a hard field to be in. So, and I feel like urban planning takes it that other level. I was finding in the conservation sector that it's a lot of mitigation. It's like, we did bucket tortoise, gopher tortoise bucket trapping, and like sandscape surveys, and great, you're looking at these awesome habitats that are going to later be developed into something that maybe they should be better utilized for. So kind of feel like urban planning gives it that upper layer to kind of look at something and make a decision about it and be involved in that process. And that's kind of really what brought me into that realm, was that decision-making process, and finding the people to bring this to that table. Because honestly, planning kind of comes from a history where we didn't have the right people at the table making these decisions. So I think having these conversations and educating people on what urban planning is to get everybody at that table, so that we can have that diverse representation. We can have all these different perspectives. We can have that environmental perspective. We can have the food insecurity perspective. We can bring in food system planning into the conversation as well. I feel like it's all about finding your niche, finding what you're passionate about, bringing it to the table. And that's honestly what urban planning is. And I feel like I kind of meandered off a little bit. So yes, long answer short, urban planning is way more than I can currently comprehend what it is. I feel like it's like the concept of space to me. I put it in that category of like infinity.
Thank you very much. See, this is why we have Fatima here, and she can't get away from this type of session anymore because I've got her number, and so we're gonna have her involved in all of these sessions from here on out. So let's go on to another question here. That and let's start with you, Dr. Van. We'll see what is the most enjoyable aspect, do you think, in your mind, of urban planning and being in this career, or even what is the most enjoyable aspect of even teaching students? What part do you enjoy and love the most?
So in my current job, it is seeing student success and alumni success and people who come up and say, "I love what I'm doing," which is amazingly common, and you're hearing it, from the folks who are alumni here. People really enjoy this field, and there's a couple sides to that. I think one, there is a pretty clear career path. Planning is a real profession. You can be certified. Finding a job is not a mysterious and complicated thing, and we have like a ridiculous job placement rate. Basically, if you want to go on and be a planner, you will get a job in this field. And right now, especially in Tampa, with the growth that's projected for this region for the next foreseeable future, that's going to be the case. So it's nice in that respect, but it is something where you can do so many different things. So if your first internship or whatever, or wherever you land the first time around, you're like, oh, this is maybe more technical or less technical, or this is not the kind of specific work I'm finding. You can bounce and do something a little bit different, and I think that, or you can just change over time, and I think that's really fun too. Like, I thought the be-all end-all for me was always going to be farmland preservation planning. I love doing that. I did that in New Jersey, the Pinelands area and the areas between Philly and driving at South Jersey. Farmland is so beautiful, and I love doing that. But after 5 years of doing that, I just really began to be interested in different challenges, and today I'm working a lot on the climate issues that are so important in Florida, and I find it really fascinating because it's the issue of the moment. And so I think that's my happiness is really, and my joy in the career at this point, and with what's a job I have now, is seeing people who thrive and love what they do. But I think it's what and I'm definitely feeling old and thinking of all the different things I've done in this career, but there's just so many different aspects of the work I've done. It's going out to a farm and seeing that it's been preserved, helping students. We just this semester in my land use planning class, we helped rewrite proposed language for the City of Tampa code for climate change. And I just love seeing the ideas that they came up with, which are so oriented towards social justice and different angles than what my mind went to, which are much more, the land use technical side that I'm really exposed to. So it's just all those connections and opportunities that I think planning brings that make me happy about this career.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so, Katrina, what sparks your fire? What keeps that fire going as you progress in your career?
So a couple of things for me that come to mind. In my first job as a consultant with Renaissance Planning, which is a relatively small, I guess you call it a boutique firm. We obviously did consulting work. We contracted with different people, and I got to work with what is now my employer, the TPO side of Plan Hillsborough, on Vision Zero. And if you're not aware, Vision Zero is an international movement to end all serious injuries and fatalities on the roadways. There's a local program in Hillsborough and as well as City of Tampa. And I got to be involved with that, a lot of the public engagement side of that and that consulting job, and just really bringing awareness to injuries and fatalities on our roadways and how we can fix that. And that involvement was really great for me. But at the same time, when I started my job at Renaissance, I moved to downtown Tampa. So I was downtown biking and walking to work, and that was my primary way to get to work. And so it really became a passion for me that, there were a couple times where I almost got hit by a car while I was biking to work, so you see that kind of thing, and you see those sort of things, and then you realize like, okay, I can actually make a difference by raising awareness towards this or policy language for this. And the second part of my answer to that would be my current role. I do a lot of policy language, which sometimes the first thing people say when I say I'm an urban planner, like, oh, can you fix with an interest in transportation, they'll say, can you fix this street light or this stop sign by my house? And like, I'm not really on the implementation side of things or the engineering side of things. But the policy side is really fun because it takes a lot of collaboration with other departments. The Planning Commission, we serve our client governments, so we work with Hillsborough, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and Tampa. And getting to work with different folks, their planning departments, and reaching consensus on policy language is actually really satisfying. It can be kind of a cumbersome process, or herding cats, if you will, getting everybody to see eye to eye on what you're working on with that policy language. But once you reach that, it's really satisfying. And then also going through the political process and making sure that you bring on the BOCC and bring your policy language to them, and they actually move forward with it. So it's this interesting, finding that compromise, that solution for what you're working on, and it can be really satisfying. And I actually really like the political side of things too, so I find that really fun.
Fantastic. And Katrina, I think I've apologized for almost hitting you, so I thought you weren't going to bring that up. But anyway, kidding. It was not me. I don't think. So I agree with you. I think what really keeps me interested in overall in planning is that, and you kind of grow in my, I grew to love planning, and I kind of grew to love it as each little puzzle piece of planning kind of started to fit. And when I started seeing how, how land uses started connecting with transportation and environment, and then we have this document, the Land Development Code, which could help you fall asleep at night in some cases. But if you really read it and understand how it fits into a community, it really becomes fascinating. And so that's what really keeps me interested in it, the many different realms of urban planning. It's not just one. So as what has been said already, I mean, if you find one area just doesn't fit for you, say you are working on say site plan development and that kind of thing, and you go, I'm kind of over this type of thing, doesn't mean you have to quit planning overall. I mean, you can go into transportation, you can go into environmental planning, you can go into many different realms of planning, and still work with the same people. And it is really interesting. We have the planning realm is really the people who are in it, especially in the Tampa Bay area. Everyone knows everyone else, which is probably one of the reasons why the job placement rate is so high, especially in the MURP program. It's because someone knows someone else who knows someone else. My very first planning job, by the way, I was working on campus and going through my undergrad, and one of the professors was working in the behavioral sciences department. It wasn't my degree, but I was working there. I was helping out, doing some computer stuff for people and making copies, all that. And one of the professors, her husband worked as an environmental scientist for an engineering firm. And I said, well, I'm in environmental, I'm in geography. And so she said, well, they might have a position, environmental planning. And by golly, she connected me with this person. And so I wound up getting my first internship. And actually that was Roger Menendez, who is part of our APA, our Florida APA board, who we reconnected when I got back on the board. So it's amazing how those connections are made. So that's really, really exciting overall. And so Fatima, let me ask you the question then. As you're going through the program, what has sparked your interest in the classes that you've taken so far, and what are you looking forward to as you continue?
Yeah, so when Dr. Van was talking about how she was like beep bopping all over, it made me think of like, that's pretty much what I've been doing the past year that I've been in the program. I went in with like, oh, I'm going to do sustainable infrastructure. That was my thing coming from the environmental background. I'm going to bring the environment to the people. That was like my focus. And then I fell in love with GIS like super randomly and like really got into GIS. I went through like a binge and did like 3 classes back to back and I really liked it. And then I think I got a little GIS out and I was like, okay, I'm over my GIS flirts. Like what's next? And my mentor that I got through the MAPS program, which is another aspect of our program, but I'll probably let Dr. Van talk about that a little bit later. But he works in sustainable infrastructure and he and I ended up volunteering at a community garden every Wednesday. And we just started talking about food insecurity and access to food and how to bring that. And like every day was like this crazy brainstorm on like how we were, me and him were going to solve food insecurity in Hillsborough County. And then we started networking with other people, including Hillsborough County's food system coordinator. And I just really got into food systems planning. And then through my internship, the director of TPO, Beth Alden, is so awesome. And like, that's what I really love about the little community that we have is that everybody allows you to create the sandbox that you want to create. So like when I wanted to do GIS, I got a lot of GIS projects. And I think that's why I got GIS out because I was like, okay, awesome. Like I got it out. And then when I got into food system planning, Dr. Linkus, she provided me with a bunch of documents and I did a bunch of reading on it. And then Beth Alden, which was the director of the TPO and the internship that I had at the time, she let me help Sweetwater Farm start a community garden, which it's a very long process. I'm still in the process of doing that right now. But I mean, that was just so cool. I like was just talking to her about it one day and she was like, okay, well, let me see what I can do and just plop this opportunity on my lap. So I feel like that's what our community kind of allows us to do. And I mean, right now, I think I'm still in like my food system planning phase, but I'm definitely like more linking it. Like advocacy planning has been what's kind of been at like my umbrella. And that was also introduced to me through my internship. They let me do a lot of outreach work. They let me knock on doors of random people and talk to people. They trusted me a lot and I really loved it. And I felt really energized with just engaging the community and kind of that's where I'm finding like kind of fuels my fire, so to say. So I don't know. Again, I feel like we're saying it over and over about how planning can be so many things, but that's kind of where I'm at. And it's nice. I don't know if I have ADD or something, but I really am like, I want to do a little bit of everything. And it's very nice. I feel like planning kind of satisfies that urge in me. And I don't know, maybe it does for someone else as well.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's fantastic. I love the fact that there's so many different realms. But that said, obviously planning can't always be rainbows and unicorns. Of course, there are of course many different challenges that you face as an urban planner, and so I'll start with Katrina. So I'm sure that being even in the private sector and in the public sector now, there have been challenges that are faced where you go, oh my gosh, I just want to run out of the room and out of the building or whatever, or turn off my Teams chat during a meeting. So tell everyone maybe some challenges that you faced and maybe how you got over them, how you got through them, and how you continue to go on.
So just thinking off the top of my head on this one of the interesting things about the difference between the public and the private sector is when you're a consultant, it's very much billable hours. Like you have to put your hours in your timesheet, and if you go over on your project hours, you're going to be hearing from your manager. So there is that side of it. On the flip side of that, you may get to work on a variety of different projects. So I'm not here to bash consulting at all, but that on the consulting side can be difficult, especially if your firm is having a slowdown on projects. People can get a little bit like, this is my project. So that's definitely something I've experienced on the consulting side, and it's something to think about if you're considering the private side. There's also sometimes a little bit of burnout because the hours can be pretty demanding on that side of things. That being said, thinking off the top of my head too, and this is for both the public and private sector, the jobs that I've had, sometimes you'll work really long hours on a project, you put your heart and soul into it, and it may not go through. So for example, with my consulting job with Renaissance, we had a project. I think we are contracted with the FDOT to bring forward this mapping of all the alternative fuel stations in the state. And it was a national designation, and we worked really hard, got this great document together. It was kind of the first project in that job that I was able to manage myself. We got great compliments from the project team saying it was, the most wonderful document they've seen. And, we're finishing it up, and we get a phone call from FDOT saying, oh, there's been a change in, our secretary, and we're not going to be moving forward with submitting this. So, too bad, so sad. And that can happen on the public side too, where you can work on something for really long hours and then put your heart and soul into it, and then maybe politically the BOCC doesn't like it, and it stops in its tracks. So that can be very frustrating, I think. And it's a difficult part of planning that I think you kind of have to have that. If you've seen Ted Lasso, that goldfish mentality where you're like, okay, I let myself be sad about this for 10 seconds and then I forget because I'm a goldfish and I have a very short memory span. So you kind of have to think about that a little bit. And it's definitely something, if you decide to pursue a career in planning or a related field, to consider that you may put your heart and soul into something and maybe it doesn't go through. I will say, at least on the public side, that things tend to resurface from the dead. So sometimes you'll work really long hours on something and it might not get used right away, and then eventually it makes its way back. So I never feel like my efforts have been entirely in vain. So that's good.
Yeah, those are good examples. As a matter of fact, I went through similar type of things when I was in the private sector as well. We had a great development where someone actually, a developer called me up and said, hey, we'd like to create a development that is that saves the trees and incorporates trails and just has sidewalks everywhere and has different types of designs for our houses. We want to just make this a top-notch type of development. And I nearly dropped the phone because if you see, I mean, you go through some of these developments now, and you better not be drunk because you're going to miss your house, because they all look the same, right? And so this developer actually called me and said they wanted to do something different, and I was thrilled. And so we managed to get the project through and approved. The board was very supportive. And then the recession hit, and so it was put on hold, and ultimately they wound up foreclosing on the property. So and it's still to this day it hasn't been built upon, and so that can be a big challenge, along with in the public sector side of things, which I in my opinion I feel more fulfilled in the public sector than I did in the private sector, just because I feel I'm doing something good for my community, and we try to focus on the good things, but we have people in the community, of course, that don't agree on things. I think we definitely know that, especially in this day and age. And they only see things from their side of the fence. So you, as a planner, have to kind of look on both sides of things to try to either to create policies or to put together a plan, whether it's community plan or sector plan or whatnot, that really meets the needs of the community overall. Even though some people and some members of the community don't feel as though that is the case. And along with that, and Katrina brought this up too, the politics of it all, of course, have a big play in that, and that can be extremely frustrating, especially like Katrina also said, when you work and you put your heart and soul into something that is going to really make a big difference in a community, and then your board changes, and they decide, no, that's not the direction we want to go. And you go, oh, but again, as Katrina said, but that's not in vain, because essentially it will hopefully resurrect, and you will be able to utilize whatever knowledge you gained and whatever plans you created to develop either a better plan or even to continue on with the plan or the policy or whatnot that you've developed. So I'll stop there and I'll turn it over to Dr. Van. So do you have any frustrations within the planning realm that you've had to deal with and get through and work through in your career?
For me personally, it probably relates most to that wandering frame of mind that I'm in. I do get bored and I do try to move on. But the good thing is that planning can be really responsive to that. I happen to love my job right now. I have zero complaints about what I do right now. It's the best job in the world because I love planning, and then I get to see students succeed and do well. So, but I can definitely offer insights from what I see in students. I definitely hear, to echo a little bit of what Katrina had said, a lot of people really enjoy starting off in the private sector. You get exposure to so many things, and then folks often gravitate towards the public sector over time, especially if you're interested in a sort of a work-life balance or that longer-term contributions to the community. I see folks who do make that move for that reason. Yeah, and people love doing the private sector stuff, and you get that it's a really cool way to start your career and gain a lot of exposure. But I do see folks who eventually say, I don't want to do the billable hours thing after a while. On the flip side, I also have a lot of, I've got planners who like when you work in local government, you're in that political realm all the time, and some folks really enjoy working in the private sector because you don't have to play the political game. It's more of a technical application, and you're using your expertise in a given area and coming in and kind of consulting. So some people really like that side too. So that's when I see graduates become frustrated, it's often that they're probably just not in the ultimate right fit, and it's really about kind of getting to know folks and looking around at the different opportunities and understanding who you are and what's available to you. And I did want to just saying this reminds me of this idea that the jobs come from this very small world, and it really is true. Now there are MURP alums everywhere in the Tampa Bay urban planning arena, and there is just such a tremendous career path that opens up to you because you're interning as a requirement of the MURP program, and then you begin to get to know all these folks, and they know who you are too. And then also volunteering and working with APA Suncoast, which Katrina will be at the helm of in the next few years. It's a phenomenal network to build a career, and then also get to know what interests you and what you just get to learn a lot through the program about what ultimately interests you.
Yeah, fantastic.
If I could piggyback off of that real quick, if you guys get one thing off this call tonight, I would say that APA student membership is free. It doesn't matter where you live. It's a national organization, so if you're in a different place, you can join that. And I guess for me, one of the biggest things is I got my current job based on networking, on people I knew, on mentors, and APA is a really good way to get to know people no matter where you are. And the planning community typically is small. People know everybody. So even as an undergrad, go ahead and join, and you can see the different events that different sections put on. And if you're in a different area or if you're in our section, looking forward to meeting you at one of our events because, as I said, I'll be chair starting in January. So please come support our events and join us and chat with us because we're always interested in getting to know up and coming planners or planning related career paths if you have a different career path. So.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. Networking is huge, and if you've been in one of my quick start classes on Tuesday nights, then you know that's one of the things that I focus on is networking is huge. The Florida APA, the Suncoast section specifically, in which I guess I'm still on the board until January 1st or December 31st, one of the two. I've been on the board for a long time. Is phenomenal, and I would, like Katrina said, as a student, it's a free join for you. So I would definitely sign up for it. And if you're on the fence about whether to go into planning, and even if you don't go into planning, even if you go into landscape architecture or architecture in general, or environmental policy work. I mean, sign up for APA, sign up for the Suncoast session, and especially in this age of COVID now, making connections is big. I mean, that's really it's challenging for you guys who are just getting out of school. In one way. Another way, though, there are jobs that are opening up now. So there's some potential for you, but you have to be able to network. And as Dr. Van said, Katrina said, you make these connections. I mean, Fatima, she's been making connections. I mean, she's being a student, a second-year student, she's made some connections. She knows a lot of people, and it really, really makes a huge difference and everything. So definitely would recommend that. So with that, let's see. And let me just remind you too, if you have any, thank you. Fatima, I just put the links to the APA and the Suncoast section. And so let me remind you, if you have any questions, feel free. Raise your hand, shout them out. We've been the ones talking, so hopefully this kind of gets you thinking about the program itself. And as we kind of close down our talk, I'll turn it over to Dr. Van, who can kind of go over the program and what the MURP program entails. But let's and I don't know in order. Let's start with Amber. I see you on the screen. You've got your hand raised. Go ahead.
My question was what is some of the research that the professors are doing in the MURP program right now at USF?
Good question.
Sure. Those of you who email me, and please feel free to, I do have some links and bullet points I keep encouraging people to look at. So I've got links to a lot of the different research articles that are just recent in the last few months from different faculty. So on there, my primary area that I'm really known for is about transferable development rights, which is a way to it's sort of like paying for ecosystem services. It's a way to transfer the value in different kinds of properties and parcels, and so that value can be moved to a better location. So it's sort of creating marketplace opportunities and financial incentives to come up with land use and environmental outcomes. So I updated a national database of those programs, and that's what my most recent article on TDR is about. There were, let's see, so Dr. Strom, so my work is really all about land use and kind of that technical policy around land use. In the department also is Dr. Robin Ersting, who has a social sciences background. She does a lot of work on vulnerable populations and also in the context of natural disasters. So she's recently published on Hurricane Irma and its effects on different kinds of social groups and specific to Florida. She does a lot of work all over that goes far beyond Florida, and does a lot of global work on women and different minority communities and their vulnerability to disasters. Liz Strom is a community development and political science researcher person. She just published about street art, like murals, and her work looked at specifically the Tampa Bay area, and she does a lot on the cultural capital of communities and how that advances economic development and social capital in communities. And then Dr. Chen is a transportation scholar in our group. He has his latest article is about COVID and transit usage. He's a really prolific publisher and has been doing a lot of work also on alternative modes of transportation, that like automated vehicles, ride sharing, and how those impact transit and that kind of thing. And then finally, Dr. Stephen Fernandez is our GIS whiz, and he's done some really interesting work on both sea level rise and historic preservation. Specifically, he did like a LiDAR scan of Tampa's Union Station recently. That was in the local newspaper. So those are some of the projects that we've got that we're working on at the moment, and it changes all the time, but a lot of diversity. We're also hiring right now for someone who to replace the recently retired Mark Hafen, if any of you know of him. He was a climate change, coastal resiliency, water, and ocean scholar, and so we're looking for someone who will bring to bear more of those expertise, because those are all such pressing issues. I think almost all of us in the department are working in some way, shape, or form in that area, but a greater focus on water, which we know we're hearing not only from Letitia, but many students. So that's a huge area of interest, and seeing the connections in water and all that we do in our urban places is really important. So we're hoping that person will bring more in on that, and maybe also have more of a GIS background to support enhanced like smart cities and data science stuff in the urban planning context.
Let me turn off the mute. Let's go with Lindsay.
This is my first Zoom call ever. I had a question about urban planning in the public sector. Is it just like urban planning is kind of like in just one department, or does it like spill into like a whole bunch of different departments? Like, is it just Department of Transportation, or do urban planners get hired in other sectors of the government?
Urban planners, I'll start, and then we can kind of fill in. But yeah, urban planners get hired in all different sectors. Water resources. I was the first urban planner that they hired in water resources. I was also the first urban planner that they hired in economic development, which is where I started in the county. And so there is a need for someone who can read policy, write code, translate what development services is saying, because there are different goals in different departments of, and I'm specifically just talking about the county right now, but there are different goals, and so all those goals need to lead back to some sort of focal point. That focal point generally is the land development code and the comprehensive plan, where and some of the other plans that are out there that is generally followed by our elected officials and our planning commission, which Dr. Van is on. So I think it all falls back there. So you can be hired as an urban planner within FDOT, DEP, at the state level, FEMA, those type of things. So yeah.
Yeah, I've always wanted to work for like the Department of Natural Resources or something cool like that. So it's cool to know that planners are needed in every little corner of government. So that's cool.
Yeah, they have planners there. Yes, absolutely. And
Thank you.
Katrina, did you want to fill in?
I would also add, this is not necessarily the public side, but I remember there was someone that was hired from the program that did GIS for Publix, helping them determine where their stores would go and things like that. There's just like so many different sides of things. Like there's a planner that I knew that used to be on the APA Suncoast board that now works for the St. Pete Distillery. In a planning job there. So it's just really, there's all kinds of, and I think even I've heard that the military is constantly trying to hire planners.
Yes.
So it's definitely like, you can get the degree and you can really go anywhere. So
yeah,
if
there's a lot of niches.
You got the degree and if you weren't happy with one job, you could figure something else out really easily. But yeah, there are a lot of planners on the public side too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Healthcare services as well. That's another area because they generally they have to work with local government, and they need someone who can work with local government and determine how to expand, where to go, what to do, how to deal with transportation, and how to deal with where their drainage is going to go, and this and that, and really put all the puzzle pieces together. So yeah, everywhere. But that's a good question. And let's go to Letitia.
I had a couple questions. My first question is, do you find yourself working on a project that doesn't come to fruition in your region. And then because of your networking and who you're networking with, you might say, hey, this didn't work out. This development didn't work out in my area, but in your area, it might be, ideal for you to, try to, propose this. And if that has happened, has it maybe stuck in another region where it had more opportunity to, catch, or do you find yourself doing that at all?
Yes, I actually can speak personally about this. We have within my group, which is we deal with manage the local mitigation strategy for the area. All coastal communities have to have a local mitigation strategy, basically telling, showing how you're going to deal with certain disasters that happen throughout your community. And so one of the things that we do, and we're not alone, of course, with this, but we're actually starting to create a regional group to kind of brainstorm ideas and do exactly what you're saying, which is if something doesn't necessarily work down in Hillsborough County, that doesn't mean it's not going to work up in Pasco County. So taking those ideas and being able to work with other planners in different counties and cities, we work, hand in hand with the city of Tampa and Temple Terrace and Plant City with our LMS and with some of our other projects and the grants that come down through the state. And so, yeah, it's extremely important. And actually, going back to one of the original conversations that we had, that's one of the ways to not really get disheartened when something doesn't go through and you're working, you put your heart and soul in it. Is you're able to share that information, so and be able to kind of help someone else. And so that really is exciting doing that. And I'll open it up to Dr. Van or Katrina. Do you want to add anything to that?
I don't really have too much to add to that. We Plan Hillsborough serves our client governments, and I haven't really had a specific case that I can think of like that. But I think everything that Troy said is correct in that, you work on something, it often comes back. And if it's good research, I'm sure other areas will take a look at it.
Yes.
That really resonated with me when Katrina brought up this idea that things come back, because even in my own research career, research is very slow work. When I started off doing the transfer myself, it was not a popular subject, but by the time I finished my dissertation, it suddenly become interesting to people 10 years later. And then after the market tanked, like right when I finished my dissertation, 2005-ish or so, and then the market fell apart, that tool went out of vogue, and it's just now seeing a rise again. So there's so much that's really cyclical in urban planning. So I find, I've really adopted that. I've never heard of it referred to as the goldfish mentality, but what Katrina was talking about, like if things don't work out, to me, I only see it as in that moment in a lot of planning policy. And I feel that way on the Planning Commission as well in that role. It's, the decisions are happening for a political time and place, but the big fight is what planners are doing and working to understand where the community wants to go. And eventually, I think stuff valuable comes around. So it's taking that longer view, I think.
Yeah.
My second question, and I'll make it really quick. How much of the things that you propose, how many of those, well, I would say how much of the substance of what you propose through your planning endeavors, and forgive me for my daughter, she's very loud. Yes. But I wanted to ask, do you feel like some of your endeavors have impacted policy changes, and have you seen quite a bit of change in minds and feelings towards being more open-minded in the planning field and being more environmental friendly across the board?
Yeah, I think I think yes. The answer is yes. I think you, as a planner, that's one of your goals is to try to not only educate but inspire, and to work with others to come up with the best plan that you possibly can. And even again, even those plans that don't make it, or those policies that don't make it, ultimately, they may spawn other things. They may spawn other discussions. There might be, certain, let's see, well, I'll give you a good example of one of the things that we had in economic development. There was a project that there was a company that wanted to remain where they were, but they needed to expand, and they had to expand upward. The problem was that the land development code didn't allow them to do what they wanted to do in order to stay in place. So you have to make decisions on whether to allow it for one company to keep them in their place and in their one spot, and so that they can stay. And if that policy is good for everyone, right? Ultimately, if you have some unintended consequences because you're changing code that will allow for a certain thing for this business to stay where they are, is doing the same thing in another location, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Is it going to have these consequences that you didn't expect, and that kind of thing? So ultimately, I mean, you have to think of the overall big picture when you're creating policies, or when you're proposing change in policies, because sometimes people tend to get, their focus is kind of like this, and it's in a box. And so you can't, as a planner, you can't be like this, because if you are, then you're your codes, your policies that you develop and you're trying to push are not going to be the best for everyone. And so hopefully that answers your question in a roundabout way. But Katrina or Dr. Van, you guys want to add?
Sure. So for me, I work for the Planning Commission. One of my projects has been updating the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, which is sorely outdated, definitely needs to be updated, some of the policy language there. And I was helping to update what we're calling the mobility section, formerly the transportation element. So we did a major overhaul of the language. We added things in like Vision Zero, that safety focus on transportation roadways. We added an equity language. Just lots of new and interesting focus on like technology on roadways and how that can help fix congestion. And I think part of it is that there's a lot of open-mindedness towards those changes and those things, because some of our board members have heard about these things and they're getting behind it. It's kind of like that slow creep of somebody told them about Vision Zero and they went to an event and they're like, wow, this is really cool. I really care about this. And, it's something that my constituents care about. And then another thing that I've kind of been thinking about a little bit too in regards to the environmental side of it is it's interesting in local politics, because I think sometimes we think about federal politics and we put people into boxes of this is what a Democrat is, this is what a Republican is. But I think at the local level, it's a little bit different, because we do have some board members that lean a little bit more conservative, but then they're also very into preserving the environment. So it's something to keep in mind when you're thinking about environmental initiatives. It might be more of a bipartisan issue, and maybe you can get support that way. But I think it's kind of that having discussions, having briefings with your local elected officials, planting that seed and educating them on different ideas, and then moving forward. And eventually, even if it's a kind of a slow creep or they ask more questions, hopefully you can make that change.
All right, great. So as we conclude, Lindsay, do you still have a question, or is it just your hand? So as we conclude, I want to turn it over to Dr. Van to kind of give a kind of overview of the MURP program, and if you're interested in it, what's next, and so take it away.
Sure. So our program, at the time, we are accepting applications on a rolling basis if you wanted to apply directly for the program. We also accept folks who come in through, if you just want to kind of dabble in it, you can come in as a non-degree seeking student and take some classes. You can also come in as a certificate seeking student. We have a certificate in community development, and we have a certificate in coastal resiliency. So those are two pathways if you're not sure you want to commit whole hog to the program. If you do to apply for the MURP program, however, if you know you want to do it, that's the way to go, because that gives you access to a lot of the other fellowship and funding opportunities that we've got as well. So 2-year program, we have pretty much everyone finishes in about 2 years. Folks who, what we're seeing is there's so much demand for folks to get employment that sometimes in the 2nd year, people scoop up, full-time jobs and then kind of go part-time to just finish out a few extra classes and take a little bit longer, but it's only because they're getting the job that they wanted and the opportunity that works out well. Some of the big things that people like to know about the program are we've got a really robust fellowship program, what we call our fellowship program. I think, gosh, I'm losing count and it keeps growing, but we've got about 8 different employers who offer about 12 different, because some of them have more than one, of what we call our fellowships. That is an opportunity where you get a paid internship. It's usually 180 hours a semester. And you also get a tuition waiver that covers basically all but some sort of fees and taxes. It's about 80% of your tuition. So this is a program that, given the size of our student population and how many employers are bringing these on to us, there's a pretty nice opportunity for a lot of students to get those. And people get nervous, but almost every student by their 2nd year also gets a really nice paid internship. I know people in their 1st year it can feel elusive. And then, before you know it, in your 2nd year, when you've just got a little bit of experience under your belt, the employers will, snatch folks up. There are opportunities in the public sector and the private sector with these fellowships. We've got them, in a lot of the different organizations that have been mentioned here. We also have a lot of opportunities in the USF arena. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting, I guess Katrina mentioned, the Center for Urban Transportation Research. Folks interested in transportation, that's a really robustly funded, big organization that is nationally known in transportation research. So there's a lot of opportunities there for research jobs. Different faculty will bring students into their research venues. We've got a mentorship program. So in addition to hooking everyone up with jobs through the internship opportunities we have available in fellowships, you can participate in the mentorship programs both years. You're in the program, and that's a more informal way to kind of just reach out and get to know folks. The student planning organization, which Fatima is president of and gave you all some information on, hosts all kinds of networking opportunities in partnership with APA. We're so happy that we're able to do a little bit more of those in person. They're fun. If you see them promoted in APA Suncoast or student planning organization social media, come out, meet everyone. It's a really nice group. And beyond that, one of the things that we don't offer that is asked to me a lot is we don't have concentrations that are really required. The program is customizable to do what you want to do. So there are, gosh, I should know this exactly. There are core courses that are, no more than about 1/3 of what you'd be taking as a student. And then beyond that, and those are the basics like land use, community planning, GIS. And then beyond that, you can really kind of customize the degree to, if you like transportation, if you want to do coastal, but you don't need to tie into any particular one. One thing that I can never impart to students fully enough is this is 2 years, a blip in your planning career, and people want to pick one thing and be an expert at it, learn everything in these 2 years. And we're giving you a very broad overview of a really broad career, and you will get all these skills on the the additional kind of depth that you'll get in your career over time. Will come as you develop in your profession, but this is an opportunity for you to kind of see the breadth and scope of what planning is all about when you're in your master's degree. And there's no urgent pressure in the first semester to know exactly what you're going to be when and I never can relay that clearly enough to folks, but it is true. And yeah, so reach out. You can look on our website for the different faculty who might have areas of interest that you're drawn to now. We hear all the time that changes over the course of your studies and then again in your career. But however we can help, it's a small, one of the things that came out when we went through accreditation is really small program. So we've just got that personal touch. It's kind of got this intimacy. So reach out to any of us. We're happy to help and figure out how we can connect you to the opportunities you need. And I sent my email through the chat if I can do anything else for anyone.
Yes, fantastic. And I put my email there, and Katrina put hers there as well. And so feel free to reach out to either of us. If you want to either, more information, contact Dr. Van if more information on the MURP program. And then if you want to ever, set up a schedule one-on-one just to talk about urban planning, and if you have any additional questions, we're open to doing that as well, because one thing you'll learn about urban planners is we can talk about the profession for a long time. So and so as we end it, we'll go through, and one final piece of advice we'll from each one of us, and I'm going to start with Katrina.
Let's see. Sorry, my boyfriend is wonderfully cooking in the background, so you might hear some of that. Let's see. One piece of advice. I would say just if you decide to go into the career in planning, just approach it with an open mind. As it's already been said, like, you may fall into a completely different area than where you thought you were going to be. So definitely keep that in mind, and just enjoy learning. When you're in grad school, it's a really fun experience. It's a time to, take whatever classes you want to take and learn where you want to go. And so I actually, that's one thing, like, there were a couple classes I didn't get to take that I wanted to take just because of scheduling conflicts or things like that. So try to take every class you want to take, even if it's something where you don't think you're going to fall ultimately. It could be really interesting to you. So that's my piece of advice.
Yeah. Dr. Van.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think, this is a career that has the best of both worlds. It's got the job opportunities, and it's got the people and the warmth and the just the way to kind of make it your own. So I really think it's a lovely thing. I wish I'd found it sooner than I did. It took me a while to find it, and just encourage you to look into it and see if it's the right one for you.
I agree. My piece of advice is to try as many things as you can. Become a well-rounded planner. Don't just stick with if you like the environmental aspect of planning or the zoning area planning. I would encourage you to try the different realms of planning, and helping out a colleague who's in a different area, or even trying public and private sector, because they have the same components in them, but they're totally different in some ways. And so try to find which area that you like, because there's so many different areas of planning. So, and then as I mentioned, no one ever likes to follow Fatima, so I'm going to end with Fatima. What would be your piece of advice, Fatima, for an incoming student as they join the MURP program?
I have to echo what you guys are saying. I mean, make it your own, be open-minded, try a little bit of everything. I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like the MURP program is like, the waiters passing around the hors d'oeuvres, like, try a little bit of everyone and find what kind of, what taste you really like. And then something that Dr. Linkus just taught us in our class is that change is incremental. And I don't know, it's really like stuck in my head. So just, I'm sharing that because it's been really helpful to know that, like, we're making the steps to create the world that we each want to be in, but it's not going to happen overnight. So just knowing that has helped me sleep a little bit better at night. I don't know if that's helpful for anyone else.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, you're right. That's perfect. Perfect to end this on. So thank you guys very much for joining us. And hopefully we've answered some of your questions. Hopefully we've encouraged you and piqued your interest even more. Hopefully you all are planning to sign up for the, fill out an application for the MURP program, because it's great. So there you go. I got Amber right there. She's on board.
Yes.
So that's fantastic. So again, if you have any other further questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can find us all on LinkedIn, so you can certainly connect with us there. Our emails are in the chat. So with that, I hope you guys have a great evening. If you're in my class, I'll be unlocking the final exam here soon, and you'll be getting your public participation grade here soon as well. So just bear with me. And you guys have a fantastic week. Thank you so much.
Bye. Good luck with the end of semester.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.